This is Hannibal and Piper here from thehannibaltv.com, and we're wishing you a happy St. Patrick's Day edition of my weekly review of the points I find interesting in Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter. And speaking of St. Patrick's Day, the Dublin Destroyer, former WWE competitor Brian Donovan, who was also on Thunder in Paradise and the David Letterman show many times, beating up the announcer on there at 5 p.m. Eastern. In just a couple hours, he's going to be doing a live interview with me. And before I jump into the Wrestling Observer review, May the 6th, in a little under 2 months, Great North Wrestling returns to Ottawa for the 15th anniversary show. The first event under new GNW Executive Vice President Jack Kilby, who, by the way, has Barry Harwitz on the GNW podcast this Sunday at 7. But let me get into the news. By the way, I did another interview with Mario Mancini last night. Feel free to check that out. But there's a ton of news this week. I have to say, this is a disappointing WrestleMania to start things off with WrestleMania news. The main event of the first night is going to be Charlotte Flair against Rhea Ripley. Really? That's a stadium show main event? I'm sorry, and I do think Rhea Ripley's very attractive, and I'm a fan of Charlotte Flair, and I think they're both talented. But I don't see that headlining a stadium show. But they also are going to have Seth Rollins against Logan Paul on the undercard. Logan Paul against John Cena would have been a better main event for the first night, in my opinion. Seth Rollins is not really, honestly, I don't want to see anything from Seth Rollins. The most entertaining thing I ever saw from Seth Rollins was when that handicap fan beat him up on Raw about a year and a half ago. I thought that was hilarious. Night 2, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. So do they really even need 2 nights to water it down? Because this year, and I'm going to watch it and live stream my reactions to it and report on it live. But really, does this WrestleMania need to be 2 nights with really only John Cena coming back to fight Austin Theory, which is not that interesting of a match? And apparently the Bray Wyatt versus Bobby Lashley match is up in the air now. It was never mentioned on Raw. Wyatt has not been around since February 24th. Apparently the impression is the match is still on, but he was also not on the Madison Square Garden show. So, I mean, that's not really that interesting of a match. That could be a Raw match just as easily. Bray Wyatt, and I'm being honest here. This run of his, he had people missed him. There was interest when he initially came back, but it's been like not much interesting since, to be perfectly honest. The Uncle Howdy dive where he completely missed the LA Knight, and I don't know. Bobby Lashley, I noticed, did post something saying he wants to be on WrestleMania. He's ready to face whoever. Night 1 is at 56,242. Night 2 is at 56,805. A lot of people fly in for the WrestleManias, and of course they're going to go to both nights, so I see why they do it. Meltzer brings up that the arena could actually hold 95,000 if they wanted to, but they'll call it a sellout no matter what number they get, even though it could really hold 95,000 for wrestling. Rey Mysterio and the Great Muta are the first announced for the WWE Hall of Fame this year. Stacy Keibler is rumored to be the next announced. WWE had 9,000 paid for Madison Square Garden, March the 12th. And again, that's the biggest city that I know of in maybe Mexico City has more, at least in the U.S. and Canada. 9,000 for that one. A guy that never drew 9,000 in Madison Square Garden, always packed the place, actually has the record for most consecutive sellouts. Superstar Billy Graham, still fighting kidney issues, cancer, lung congestion, and heart issues, diabetes, but apparently he's also deaf in both ears now, which really sucks. With the announcement that Muda is being inducted by Ric Flair into the Hall of Fame, Kerry Silkin, the former owner of Ring of Honor, before Tony Khan bought it after it had gone through years of pretty much zero interest, said publicly Flair still owes him $41,000 for dates not worked when Silkin signed Flair to a multi-show deal back in 2009, and he admits he made a mistake paying Flair up front. There had been a lawsuit about it, but when the company was bought, Sinclair bought it from Silkin, but I think Silkin still had something to do with it. But Sinclair bought it in 2011, so when they bought the company, the lawsuit got dropped to different owners. The WWE, apparently everyone was thinking their Elimination Chamber show had a lot of interest for Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn, but Meltzer has reported that in actuality it only had like 25% more searches than the recent AEW Revolution pay-per-view. Regarding MLW, their first lawsuit got thrown out. They're appealing it. Apparently, Jerry McDevitt is going to attempt to have it permanently thrown out next. I guess this is them claiming WWE is why their product is so shitty. Good luck with that. They should be investing this lawsuit money in a better quality product. Don't throw your money away on expensive lawsuits that you're not going to win. Trish Stratus, 47, is rumored to be turning heel at WrestleMania and going on to face Becky Lynch at SummerSlam. I'll be honest, I would rather see Stratus as a face against Lynch because I'm just not a fan of Becky Lynch. I do like Irish people. Maurice from Cheap Heat, I like. Brian Donahue, I like. There's lots of people I've met over the years work the bar industry that I like. I love the Leprechaun movies, but there's something about Becky Lynch's accent that I absolutely hate. I hate hearing her talk. And I know everyone doesn't feel that way, but I definitely feel that way. I'm not a fan of hers. Wade Barrett is officially replacing Pat McAfee, who's not coming back right now. He did make comments a couple weeks ago that he might have issues with who WWE is going to be sold to. So maybe he's waiting to see what happens there. WWE is doing SmackDown in Puerto Rico May 5th now, before doing Backlash the following night, May 6th, the same night as our Great North Wrestling event in Ottawa. They haven't had a major WWE show in Puerto Rico since like 2005. So that should sell out pretty fast. There hasn't been much wrestling going on in Puerto Rico since those hurricanes about 5 or 6 years ago. Pretty much killed whatever was left with the territory. And sadly, IWA was credible with their pay, but WWC has always had issues with paying talent, which kind of stopped talent from going over there for any long period of time. But I used to wrestle there, former two-time WWC Puerto Rico Tag Team Champion, former IWA Puerto Rico Intercontinental Champion, and I do miss Puerto Rico a lot. I love it there. NXT did a 0.15 rating. Raw did a 0.53 rating. Rampage did a 0.15 rating. SmackDown did a 0.63 rating from Pittsburgh before 9,200 paid. Winnipeg's Dynamite did a 0.27 rating before 7,000 paid. And Meltzer points out, as good as a number as this is for AEW, he would have expected more for Omega and Jericho being from Winnipeg. And this was Jericho's first TV appearance in Winnipeg since 2004, so pretty much 20 years ago. It was a great. I did do a review of the show. I actually enjoyed the show overall, other than the annoying thing where the referees don't give a damn about rules in tag matches. I thought the crowd was really loud, but yeah, it was clear they had the top level pretty much blocked off. But you would think there'd be an instant sellout with Jericho there. Oh, by the way, Raw in Providence drew 7,000 from the Dunkin' Donuts Center, where I've been once. The time I interviewed Zeus, which was the weekend of the Rhode Island Comic Con, which the food in Rhode Island is amazing. I love octopus, and every place I went there had an amazing octopus. Also in AEW news, there's been a lot of talk that either TBS or TNT is going to be doing a Saturday television show in addition to the Wednesday and Friday shows. Meltzer brings up, in theory, this would probably lead to there being 2 tapings a week, taping the television show the same day as Rampage, which would be good because right now, more often than not, they tape Dynamite and Rampage the same night and dark, and the shows are crazy long. And as Meltzer points out here, they don't do very good return business. They usually do a good number when they first come to a city, and the next time they come back is usually lower. Part of that is probably these extremely long shows. Nobody wants to sit through that other than the super fans and people that get free tickets when they see how long it is. That's just a turnoff of coming back. Apparently, ALW filed a trademark for AEW Collision, so that would likely be the name. He mentions that pretty much everything AEW related streaming-wise has been down and declining lately. Rampage has been at all-time lows recently, as they even brought up that Rampage and their other shows are crappy shows and Dynamite. But when they told MJF in a promo, you don't even have to appear on these shows, and we're lucky if we get a 1 minute of camera time on Dynamite. So they're bashing their own show. Meltzer brings up Dynamite's ratings are still pretty decent, but pay-per-view numbers are down. And as he says, repeat market visits are down. Both Bella twins, now known as the Garcia twins, were backstage at Revolution, although they're claiming they're not going to AEW, but they're done with WWE. Can't see them going to Impact. That's lucky if they get 150 people at a TV taping, including comps. And MLW is pretty much in the gutter. They rarely run. Where else would they go? Maybe Japan. AEW went on to announce Canadian dates, with the biggest one being June 25th in Toronto for Forbidden Door. The other ones are going to be Dynamite, Rampage tapings in Hamilton, Ontario, where WWE used to go all the time and never goes anymore. Now it's called the First Ontario Centre. It used to be called Cops Coliseum, site of the first Royal Rumble and at least one other WWE pay-per-view. That can hold up to 13,000 or more for wrestling. They're also doing tapings in Edmonton, where I once wrestled for WWE at Rogers Centre. Can hold 14,000 for wrestling. Then they're going to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, which it's really out in the boonies. For people that don't know where Saskatchewan is, like there's like 2 towns in Saskatchewan, Saskatoon and Regina, in the entire province. Like other than that, it's all like really small towns. And there's a lot of prairie. Driving in Saskatchewan is, you can drive really fast, but it's very easy to fall asleep. But they're doing Dynamite in Saskatoon and Rampage in Regina. And there hasn't been TV tapings there for wrestling since WWE did Superstars and Challenge there in the mid-90s, I think. Which I remember the Saskatchewan Rough Riders did like a special like lumberjack match on one of those tapings. So yeah, it's funny, and I've previously mentioned this, that they're going to these, like Regina and Saskatoon are fairly small, and yet they're getting the TV tapings. But the same week, July 15th, they're going to Calgary, the famous Saddle Dome, where they had that Canadian Stampede pay-per-view for a house show. So seriously, they're going to like towns that are really small for the TV tapings, but doing a house show on the Saturday in Calgary. The only thing I can think of is maybe they do have this TV deal in place, and that house show is really going to be a TV taping. Because, for instance, they're doing a house show this weekend, their first house show since pre-pandemic, when they did a poorly attended one in Florida. This weekend, they're going to Troy, Ohio, in an arena that Meltzer says can hold about 2,600 for wrestling. There's no advance ticket information available right now, but I could understand them going to a 2,600 arena for a house show, but to go to the Saddle Dome, an 18,000 seat arena that has had multiple Raws and pay-per-view tapings and a world famous arena, and they're not going to tape it, that doesn't make sense to me. I would suspect that this Saturday show is going to be taped there. Otherwise, why go to such a huge arena? Apparently, the Winnipeg City Council named Chris Jericho's street that he grew up on Chris Jericho Way. Congratulations to him. He also was awarded the Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Medal in the province of Manitoba, which sounds pretty cool. I'm sure it is an honor. I'm not taking away from it, but I'm not sure what Jubilee means. If anyone knows what Jubilee means, I mean, there's a jeweler here called Jubilee Jewelers, but if anyone can explain to me what that means, congratulations to him either way. I do respect Chris Jericho. Taya Valkyrie. Oh, and I did enjoy Chris Jericho's match, by the way, from Winnipeg. Taya Valkyrie, 39, started with the AEW in Winnipeg. Danhausen, who just came off a leg injury recently, has torn his pec. Jeff Gaylord apparently has passed away at the age of 64. He is best known for being the Black Knight, and apparently I never knew this until today. And I told Jack Kilby to ask Barry Horowitz about this on Sunday when they do the Great North Wrestling Podcast interview this Sunday at 7 p.m. live here on the Hannibal TV, YouTube, and Facebook page. But okay, so he was the Black Knight, and then what I didn't know was after they did that Survivor Series 93 pay-per-view with the Knights, the Black Knight Jeff Gaylord and the Red Knight Barry Horowitz continued on doing house shows for 2 months. So that's interesting. Apparently, Gaylord was charged with 4 different bank robberies and had a reputation for being a dressing room thief. He also did jobs on WWE and WCW television before his run as the Knight. And apparently those house show matches were in mostly smaller markets back when they were doing more house shows. Regarding his robberies, in October 2001, Gaylord was arrested for robbing numerous banks in Aurora, Colorado, taking $5,000 total. He wasn't caught. But then in February 2002, he robbed the same bank. And as he left, the bank saw his license plate number, which I guess must have been the same plate, or I don't know. Somehow they associated the two. He pled guilty to those. $5,000 hardly seems worth the risk of robbing a bank. Really doesn't. And after being released, after being in prison for 6.5 years, he went on to rob another bank. And then he was arrested again, released in 2015. So this guy has not lived a fun life. TBS is officially not renewing Power Slap. Its finale only did a 0.05 rating. And that was coming off the previous week AEW Rampage that had a 0.29. So hardly anyone stayed on the channel to watch Power Slap, which I honestly have zero interest. After you see Power Slap and like you're first curious, okay, what the hell is this? And you're like, okay, I've seen it. I don't want to see anymore. I don't want to encourage this kind of I like to see the progression of humanity. Yes, we all do dumb things and we all make mistakes in our lives, but overall, I like to see the progression of humanity. And I think Power Slap is going back in time as far as progression of humanity. I'll call that person back after Alistair Overeem has been suspended for 1 year for failing a kickboxing drug test. He hadn't kickboxed for 12 years. So I'm sure he doesn't care too much. That's probably why he didn't care about failing the drug test. He's probably like, I'm just going to take the payday for this and take whatever I can to win the match. And whatever the fine is or whatever the punishment, at least I'll win. And by the way, Overeem did get a first-round knockout over Brock Lesnar. Scott checking in from Pennsylvania. William Piper's back sleeping beside me. Bray, he's not missing as a person, but no one quite knows where he's gone. He makes about $4 million a year, but he doesn't seem to be the most reliable. From what I've heard from reports, he makes about that. Keep in mind, before they released him the last time, he had taken like a 3-month leave of absence. So if you're paid $4 million a year, they basically paid him $1 million for sitting at home, not including merch bonuses. So I don't blame them for releasing him the first time. Good day to you, Al. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. And I could care less about those two people. Mike, Big Dollar Dan, the left-hand man, Danny Spivey. There's a great shoot interview with on this channel. I do actually really like Danny Spivey, and I love his name. What about says, I don't think people believe Becky represents the Irish. And I know I got a lot of Irish fans on this channel, and I'm not hating on the Irish. I actually like Irish people. I mean, Kevin Sullivan has Irish in him. I'm good buddies with Kevin. I don't, yeah, there you go, Al. She's getting the rope. She's being for, one thing people can say what they want about Roman Reigns. I'm not saying he's not talented. But if you keep making someone win over and 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 over again for years and years and years, they're going to become a star. It just happens. So yes, if you're the chosen one, sometimes you get that treatment. World Wrestling Council is going to turn 50. Wow, what a proud heritage that company has. I don't. Teddy Hart, I don't even think about anymore. He can do whatever he wants. I really don't have the other than borrowing money from me and not paying me back, which is never fun. Then complaining about that I complain about that he asks for money and then doesn't pay back. Shame on me for doing it. Shame on me for doing it. But I really don't care. I really wish him well. He's served his time for whatever it was he did, and I believe he's off of probation now. From the last I heard, he had some guy. His documenter was quite a character. But no, good luck to him. But I haven't heard of him doing anything really. I don't even know where he is. I know that Bret Hart's kids just did a big show in Calgary, and they didn't use Ted. They used Harry, and Harry was also used on the Calgary Hitman did a tribute to Bret Hart, where they gave him a banner at the Saddle Dome. And Harry, they put the ring on the ice, and Harry had a match with someone. Didn't look like there was many people in the crowd, but I'm just saying that his own family isn't using him. Yes, WWE is trying to sell. Who's the next person to interview? Brian Donahue, the Irish wrestler. And I'm going to call Sid back this weekend. I'm nearly giving up on him. Barry Horowitz is going to be doing an interview on this channel Sunday. There's a lot coming up, but Kevin Sullivan, who's going to be appearing on the Great North Wrestling May 6th event, has an upcoming interview on this channel. By the way, Wes Briscoe and James Storm are also going to be on that show, as well as Jeremy Prophet and Jessica Black, who were actually in the very first AEW Canadian match ever. Yes, Kenny Bolin is doing another interview on this channel too. I want to interview the Beverly Brothers. If anyone has their contact information, Great North Wrestling at gmail.com. Someone says he loves the Sex with Strangers clip from Lanny Poffo, which for anyone that doesn't see this, he talks about, by the way, apparently his daughter saw that. Oh my God. His daughter saw that clip, and he had to explain himself to his daughter on why he loves having sex with strangers. And I actually do understand that. If you know nothing about a person, it could be just fun, and you're not thinking, there's no connection to the person. But all I want to think about these days is training and getting into great shape. So I wish everyone a great weekend. In less than 2 hours, I'll be doing an interview special for St. Patrick's Day with the Dublin Destroyer, Brian Donahue.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews.